we do have a couple of questions that have come in, and let's see if maybe we can answer those in the remaining minutes that we have. First one is when we talk about user editable scenes, do those get saved in the DC file or are they stored in the Equinox profiles?
So that's a good question. When scenes are built by users, they are initially stored on the controller in the project. They are not stored in Design Center yet. The next time you do a full program to the system and check that box in Design Center that says retain Equinox user data, at that point we read that information into the Design Center file and actually create a separate backup file, both of which are on your laptop. So it now exists in 3 places or in 3 different files. One on the controller, so the user data is still on the controller. There's one in the DC file, and one in the, we call it the user data file, that is also stored on the laptop.
Those are not visible, however, to the program.
They're not visible for editing or the like. It is specifically for reading and writing back and forth to the controller. Mm-hmm.
So this other next question is, so let's say you have lighting loads that are controlled with sensors that have timeout functions, and you program buttons to override those sensor functions. It appears that the lighting widget does allow a load to be controlled, but it's not exactly the same as a program button. So sometimes the sensor program will override the lighting control. So is there a suitable way to allow load control from the lighting widget to override sensor programming?
That's a great question. And the answer is that the way that we teach within the Infusion certification training course to handle this does work the way you would hope that it would. In other words, the override button on the keypad, a button on the keypad, let's say, for example, you wanted the light to come on full with the motion sensor. Rather than telling it to go on to 100%, we told it to go to 99%. And then the keypad button turns it to 100%. We do a comparison against the lighting level to see if it was actually set to 99%, knowing that the only way, with a high probability, that that was set to 99 was if it was set by the motion sensor. In other words, then, the motion sensor will only turn it off if the motion sensor turned it on, not if the keypad button or the Equinox lighting widget controls. So I would use this as a great opportunity to encourage those of you here domestically in the United States and Canada. If you haven't been to a certification training course, if you haven't had someone from your company come to an certification training course within the last, since 2012 or later, you might want to consider, we're doing a lot of localized trainings. We're still doing trainings here in Orem, and there is tuition waiver for those of you who are retraining. So we would encourage you to consider that. There's a lot of things that you might learn. Recently did a training in Auckland and did that with a experienced dealer hosting that had been around since about the time that Q was introduced, about 1988, somewhere around there. And he made a list of all the things that he learned in that training course and came up with a list of 25 significant things that he did not know. So I want to encourage you to consider that as an option for you. Also, we do cover the Equinox, both the 40 as well as the full widget interface in the certification training. That's a great opportunity for you.
Next question is, can the, quote, set LCD page procedure that is used on the 4.0 be used on the activate function for Equinox 7.3?
Yeah, it can be used on the EQ 7.3, but at this point, until we do some rework on the scenes widget and on the, let's call it the shell environment for all of the widgets on the 7.3, it can't set a page within the 7.3 itself. That is something that we know we want to do and we'll be working on this year to move ahead with. We also had some other questions that came in prior to the seminar that I'd like to review, and then we'll turn the time over to Forrest to finish up with training and documentation. So the question was, when a new version of the Android Equinox app is created, can a BAR version, a bar version, be created at the same time so it can be run on the BlackBerry Z series? This is often done for many Android apps and is a straightforward process. Many customers run BlackBerries as they must use them for work. Now, for us, it's not a straightforward process because technically, while this is possible, it's not wholly supported in our development tool set yet, that ability to create a BAR. In fact, it's a major effort to use our tool set to code once and export to the 3 platforms that we support today, which is the Equinox 7.3 platform embedded, the Android platform, and the Apple platform. So to enable and test for BlackBerry would actually be, for us, a significant initiative. And if I could be honest, one with potentially a low return, though I understand the request. One of the risks with BlackBerry definitely is that they are constantly in and out of the smartphone market, and most recently are talking about getting out of the phone market again because of the lackluster performance of the Z series. But it is something that when we find time and can do, we will, if it's still applicable, but it is not on top of our list. There was another question about Windows on a related question on the Windows, either PC or Windows Phone, and that's basically the same as the previous question. The answer is, though Windows has a higher priority based on our customer demand than BlackBerry does, for now, until we are able to also export to a Microsoft Windows Phone and Windows PC environment, the workaround or the option is to use the TPT Designer inside of Design Center, so that's our older environment, use the Equinox template that's been provided that is graphically consistent with Equinox, and use the IMC USB product, which is a USB key to enable that device to work. And that will enable desktop control with a relatively consistent user experience. But that would only be for PCs. There is no workaround to date for Windows phones. So the next question that came in had to do with LEDs, and we'll let Forrest and Tim answer that, but it says, many customers are installing LED lamps that don't draw enough power to turn off properly with dimmers, either EasyTouch 2 or RFLC. Is this something that is being looked at?
Yeah, Brian, I'll take it. This is Tim. You know, we're producing a spec right now for a new dimmer that will support lower wattage or very low wattage loads, which are, again, LED type products, you know, a single load application. You know, again, when you write a spec, it doesn't happen overnight. So again, it's something that we are aware of in these products. We are addressing, again, as we're stocking here right now to deal with that. You know, the current products, a lot of the dimmers on the market today, you know, there are dimmers out there that are dealing with this better than we are today in some of these applications, but we are consistently working to get this resolved as soon as possible.
Thanks, Tim. A few more questions that came in prior, and while we're going through these, if any other questions come up, please feel free to type them in and send them, and we'll address them as well. The next question was, will it be possible, this is a great question, by the way, will it be possible to create custom widgets in Design Center in the future? Using the Scene widget doesn't always provide a good experience for configured or pre-programmed button tasks. And I agree. This is definitely a great question. The short answer is yes, but it's yes with an asterisk because it's tricky, because it's a little bit down the road. Right now, on our roadmap, we need to finish shades and timers as we've discussed today and showed you guys. That will take us a little bit of time to finish. Plus, we are also working on energy, multi-home support within the app. We're looking at intercom and door phone support. Plus, we have refreshes to the majority of the widgets that we have covered or that we have released to date. We talked about things we want to do to the Scenes widget to improve it, things we want to do to the lighting widget. We also have improvements to the audio widget the video widget, climate, etc. cameras are due for a major overhaul. And those right now will likely come ahead of a full custom widget capability, though I do see the need for it and understand it. Hopefully we're able to address the majority of the concerns about configured or pre-programmed tasks that you mentioned in the question when we do an overhaul to the scenes widget. The next question was, will timers become an available option in scene configuration? Well, yes. That came in before the webinar, so they obviously didn't know about that happening. As you've seen, timers will become their own widget with access to the scenes that are built from the scene widget. And then the last question that came in prior to the webinar says, for the lighting widget, lights turn on instantly to 100% when selected. Can these be ramped and go to a set level when selected? The answer is absolutely yes. In fact, before we released, that's the way it was, but we encountered some challenges technically with that, so we set it back to full on. But this will be addressed as part of the refresh that I'm talking about with the lighting widget when we provide basically a round 2 set of features and fixes, if you will, to the lighting widget. So great question, totally agree in that need for capability. And as I mentioned, learnability, tying that same learnability to buttons on button programming on keypads throughout the house as well from the UI. So those will both be done. Were there any other questions that came in?
Yeah, can we answer maybe a couple more?
Yeah, whatever you'd like to do.
How does the scene widget have access to program tasks within the Design Center file? Will it have access to all tasks or only those that are assigned to a button, keypad, Equinox app scene?
It's a great question. The answer to that is that it does have to be tied to some sort of a button. The task, if it's not associated with the button somewhere in the project, will not be visible. However, you will notice as you enter or as you bring in a new instance, or if you check an existing instance of either an Equinox 73 or an Equinox app object, you'll notice that there are 16 buttons that come along with that, or I think they're labeled scenes. And the reason for that is to give you additional locations that you can assign or associate those tasks that you want to expose to your customer that they have access to beyond the ones that are already associated with keypads.
And I might add to that, Forrest, that's a good comment, that those scene buttons that are available to that specific Equinox 7.3 touchscreen or Equinox app object automatically populate that Equinox object with those scenes. So the naming of that button becomes important and the task programming associated to it. Good question.
The next one is, what network equipment do you recommend?
Hey, good morning, good afternoon everyone, this is Mark. So we have a great baseline network solution just about to launch 29th of April based upon legacy on-queue Legrand. We have a good relationship with Luxor, mid-tier commercial grade networking solution, and at the high-end access networks. But again, I can push forward the catalog page and part numbers to answer that question, Reed.
We'll send it out to the guys that have the question.
Yeah, perfect.
And then maybe just one more, guys, if you can. When can we expect the button/scene lockout to be available?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know specifics on when I'm going to get to the scene widget refresh. What I have scheduled, and I'll just share this with you, openly, it will take us into the middle of the summer to complete the shade and timer widget capabilities that we are currently developing. So there won't be any work before then on that. On the last half of the year, our plan is to do a refresh to the audio and video widgets, as well as add the multiple home access. And if I can slide scene overhaul in during that time, we will. If not, it will be pushing into the first part of next year. I know it seems like a long time away, but it will be pushing into the first part of next year before we can add to that. Now we are we recognize that the quicker we move and more features we offer, the better it is overall. But I don't have an exact ETA other than it's going to take a little bit of time. So definitely something we want and need, though.